Quit my job. Last words shut them all up. The fluorescent lights of Hayes Corp hummed, a soundtrack to my misery. Another Monday, another week of Brenda stealing my ideas and Chad taking credit for my work. I took a large gulp of my coffee. I needed it. I was Amy Hayes, senior data analyst, and apparently the company doormat. For 3 years, I'd poured my heart and soul into this job, consistently exceeding expectations, developing innovative solutions, and single-handedly saving Brenda's bacon more times than I cared to count. And what did I get in return? Overlooked, undermined, passed over for promotions while watching Brenda, a woman who couldn't tell a SQL query from a spreadsheet, climb the corporate ladder. Morning, Amy, Brenda chirped, breezing past my cubicle. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Got those Q3 reports ready for me. Mr. Thompson wants them bright and early. Translation, Brenda wanted to slap her name on my work and present it as her own. Again, almost finished, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Just running the final analysis. Great chop chop. You know how important this is. I watched her strut towards her corner office, the embodiment of corporate ambition, and resisted the urge to throw my coffee at the back of her perfectly coiffed head. Chad, Brenda's sycophantic sidekick, sauntered over. Hey, Amy, Brenda mentioned you're working on something big. Anything I can, help with? He winked, the picture of insincerity. Chad's help usually involved deleting crucial files or subtly altering my code to introduce errors. I'd learned the hard way not to trust him. I've got it covered, Chad, I said, forcing a smile. Thanks. He lingered for a moment, his eyes scanning my screen, then shrugged and wandered off, presumably to polish Brenda's ego. I sighed, rubbing my temples. I loved my job, the actual work of analyzing data and uncovering insights. But the toxic environment was slowly killing me. That evening, I met Sarah, my best friend since college, for happy hour. Another week, another Brenda-induced migraine, she asked, handing me a glass of wine. You have no idea, I groaned, recounting the day's events. She's going to present my Q3 reports to Mr. Thompson like she actually knows what she's talking about. Sarah shook her head. Amy, you can't keep letting her do this. You're too talented to be treated like this. Why don't you just quit? Quitting was tempting, but I had bills to pay. Besides, I refused to let Brenda and Chad win. I've been thinking, I said, taking a sip of my wine. I'm developing a new algorithm that could revolutionize our marketing strategy. It's a game changer, Sarah. That's amazing, Sarah exclaimed. So you'll show Mr. Thompson yourself. I'm going to make sure Brenda and Chad can't take credit for this one. Little did I know, Brenda had already caught wind of my project. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of coding, testing, and refining the algorithm. I worked late into the night, fueled by coffee and the burning desire to prove myself. David, a senior analyst who usually kept to himself, started lingering near my cubicle, offering subtle suggestions and insights. I was initially wary, but his advice was surprisingly helpful. Brenda's been asking about your project, David said one afternoon, his voice low. Be careful, Amy, she's planning something. My stomach dropped. I should have known. I doubled down on my efforts, meticulously documenting every step of the process, creating a detailed presentation and backing up my files on multiple drives. I wouldn't let Brenda steal this from me. Then came the day from hell. Mr. Thompson announced a company-wide presentation showcasing new initiatives. Brenda volunteered to present a groundbreaking marketing strategy, my algorithm. I was livid. I marched into Brenda's office, ready to confront her. Brenda, we need to talk, I said, my voice trembling with anger. You can't present my work as your own. Brenda leaned back in her chair, a smug smile on her face. Oh, Amy, don't be ridiculous. It's a collaborative effort. Besides, she added, her voice dripping with condescension, do you really think Mr. Thompson would be interested in hearing from you? That was the final straw. I stormed out of her office, tears stinging my eyes. I called Sarah, pouring out my frustration and despair. Amy, don't let her win, Sarah said firmly. Fight back. Show them what you're made of. Her words ignited a spark of defiance within me. I wouldn't go down without a fight. I stayed up all night, fueled by adrenaline and righteous anger, preparing my own presentation. The next morning, the auditorium was packed. Mr. Thompson sat in the front row, flanked by the executive team. Brenda, looking smug and confident, took the stage. Chad stood beside her, grinning like a Cheshire cat. Brenda launched into her presentation, confidently explaining her marketing strategy. I sat in the back row, my heart pounding in my chest. Halfway through, Chad decided to ad-lib and explain some of the back-end coding. A grin grew across his face as he described some of the finer points of the program, points that did not exist because he had deleted them earlier. Brenda began answering the crowd's questions with vague generalities, clearly out of her depth. Mr. Thompson's expression grew increasingly skeptical. This was my moment. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. My voice was surprisingly steady. "I have a minor technical detail I'd like to clarify." Brenda's face paled. Chad looked like he was about to be sick. I walked to the stage, plugged in my laptop, and launched my presentation. The room fell silent. "What MS Miller has presented is based on an algorithm I developed," I began, my voice clear and confident. "I've been working on this project for months, meticulously documenting every step of the process." I clicked through my slides, showcasing the original data, the complex code, and the innovative methodology I had created. I presented irrefutable evidence of Brenda's plagiarism, incompetence, and Chad's efforts to sabotage my work. "This," I said, pointing to a slide with a detailed flowchart, "is the architecture of the algorithm. As you can see, it's a far cry from the simplistic explanation MS Miller provided." I then displayed emails and documents proving Brenda's history of taking credit for other people's work, including testimonials from former colleagues. The room was silent, except for the occasional gasp. Mr. Thompson's face was a mask of fury. Brenda and Chad were visibly sweating, desperately trying to come up with an explanation. "This is outrageous," Brenda finally sputtered. "Amy is a disgruntled employee trying to sabotage my presentation." "That's not true," David said, standing up in the audience. "I've witnessed firsthand MS Miller taking credit for Amy's work. She constantly undermines her and creates a hostile work environment." Other analysts in the room nodded in agreement. The dam had broken. I took a deep breath, knowing this was my last chance. "Mr. Thompson," I said, turning to face the CEO. "I've been a loyal and dedicated employee for 3 years, but I can no longer work in an environment where talent and hard work are not valued, and where unethical behavior is rewarded." I paused, letting my words sink in. "Therefore," I continued, "I tender my resignation, effective immediately." I walked over to Brenda, stopping just in front of her. "And Brenda, Chad, you two should be ashamed of yourselves." I continued, facing the crowd. "I have one final and only regret about leaving this company, and that's that I'm leaving people like you two behind to poison the well that others will drink from. You've made your bed. Now enjoy the mess you've created for yourselves." I unplugged my laptop, gathered my belongings, and walked out of the auditorium, leaving Brenda and Chad to face the music. Sarah was waiting for me outside, a huge smile on her face. "You did it," she exclaimed, giving me a hug. "You showed them." "It feels good," I admitted, a wave of relief washing over me. "Really good." A few days later, I received a call from a headhunter. "I've heard about your presentation at Hayes Corp," she said. "We have a position at a rival company that I think you'd be perfect for. Higher salary, better benefits, and a management role." I accepted the offer without hesitation. A week later, I was browsing LinkedIn when I saw a notification Brenda Miller had been restructured out of her position at Hayes Corp. Chad Lawson had been demoted to a junior analyst role. I smiled. Justice, however petty, had been served. My new job was everything I had hoped for. I was surrounded by talented and supportive colleagues, my ideas were valued, and my hard work was finally recognized. As I sat at my new desk, analyzing data and developing innovative solutions, I knew I had made the right decision. I had finally escaped the toxic environment of Hayes Corp and found a place where I could thrive. And it felt amazing.